Hey everyone, this is Blackbinder, and today we are going over the Bulwark class for Tales of Majeyal. Now, as you can see, I'm actually in debug mode if you can't tell. That means I can open up the console command. I just did that so I could automatically raise him to level 50, and I brought him here so I didn't have to fight my way here just to practice on the dummy if I needed to. If you hit Control and left click while you're in console mode, you can teleport around. Now, to get down here, you still need a Rod of Recall, otherwise you won't be able to actually come down the stairs here. It'll say you need a key or something. But also, you can Control Shift right click to kill something, and that's how I got my Rod of Recall. But let's get in here and let's go over what exactly a Bulwark is. A Bulwark is supposed to be the tanky class. It's basically just a straight up shield warrior of the game. He does have quite a bit of mobility eventually, not at first. And he doesn't really have that many tricks up his sleeve. He's really just a straightforward fighter. So because of this, he doesn't have very many unique ways to tackle situations, and people think he's bad. I think his simplicity is his strength, in that the Bulwark has a lot of skills that cover noob traps. Like, you obviously are going to wear heavy armor with him. Not everybody knows to wear heavy armor, massive armor with everyone. He also gets built-in stun resistance. He gets built-in extra armor, he gets a built-in mobility, and he gets built-in high damage. Yes, he is a shield using class, but he's still going to outdo pretty much every caster class when it comes to damage end game. But yeah, he is the first class I beat Nightmare on. I used an anti-magic Bulwark. For the purposes of this build or guide though, I'm going to recommend staying away from Anti-Magic just because I'm playing him on Insane. If you're on Normal or Nightmare, Anti-Magic is fine, but I would recommend against it on Insane. But let's go ahead and jump right into the stats. For stats, you're going to want to max out Strength, which is obvious because that's where your damage is going to come from. Dexterity. Some of the stuff you have actually scales off of dexterity, like here, enter a protective battle stance increasing defense and armor by 6 and block value by 43. The defense and armor increase is based on your dexterity. And then here, greater weapon focus is based on your dexterity. There are a few things that are based on your dexterity, but you also want the accuracy anyway. So I usually go strength and dexterity first. And then eventually I will max magic for the purposes of one of the prodigies we take later. You're actually not going to use magic all that much unless you unlock Celestial Light or any other magic tree. And then for your fourth stat point, we're going to put it into Cunning. Now, usually I max out Cunning on a lot of classes to increase crit chance, but we should be able to max out crit chance or get close enough just with all of the items we're going to be using. Now for race, there really is only one option in my opinion. If you want to use a shield, which you should because that's where their best skill comes from, Assault. The only really race you can use is Ogre because you can two-hand, you can have a two-hander in one hand and a shield in the other hand. Now if you wanted to, because you're using a two-hander, you can still actually get the two-handed tree here and use it as if you were using just a two-hander. I don't. I'm only going two-hander for the extra damage. And compared to other melee classes, he is going to fall behind on damage, so it does help out. So, race, you probably want to pick Ogre. And then we already went over this. We already went over the stats, so let's jump right into the skills. Starting off with the shield offensive skills. Hits the target with 2 shield strikes doing 136 and 166% shield damage. If it hits a second time, it stuns the target for 2 turns. The stun chance increases with your accuracy and your strength. Alright. You can take as many points in here as you want for the stun length. Right here, you do up to 5/5, get more turns out of it, but do not take it for the damage. A lot of these, everyone except for Assault, you can pretty much ignore how much damage you're getting for percentages. Because, let's see if I can't get over there. Alright, we can see right here, 171 and 212. That's really high. But it's using your shield, and for whatever reason, you do not have shield mastery. Like, we have weapons mastery right here. It increases your physical power and increases damage when using swords. Now, a Stone Warden does have shield mastery, but that's because he only attacks with shields. But you do not have any way to actually increase the efficiency of the power of your shields. So even though this is like 212%, it's not going to hit very hard. It's just going to, like endgame, you can expect to maybe get 200 damage out of this when you're hitting with your shield. Now there is an ego on shields called Earthen Fury, I believe, that lets you do extra damage on your shield attacks that's based on your armor. But that is independent of the percentages of these attacks. So, basically that just means for these two skills right here, Shield Slam and Shield Pummel, we're not taking them for the percentage-based damage, weapon damage they do. We're taking them for their extra effects. This one for the stun, Shield Pummel for the stun. Alright, Riposte. Improves your ability to perform counter-strikes after blocks in the following ways. Allows counter-strikes after incomplete blocks. That's very, very important. Increases the duration of the counter-strike debuff on attackers by 1 turn. Increases the number of counter-strikes you can perform on a target while they're vulnerable by 1. And increases the crit chance of counter-strikes by 19%. The crit chance, it's not a big deal. It is early on, but later on that won't matter. Alright, it's very hard to block an entire attack because attacks hit so hard. So what we want is when we block, we get the counter-strike debuff on an enemy, and that doubles the damage of our next attack. Now, that's not... What we want is the counter-strike to work with Assault. But Assault, the first attack on it is with your shield. So, if we're going by this, that means the number of counter-strikes we can perform on the target while they're vulnerable is 1. So our double damage is going to get eaten up by this 105% shield attack. So we need to raise Riposte up to at least 4 out of 5. That increases the number of counter-strikes you can perform on a target while they're vulnerable by 2. Now what that does is it'll eat the first part of Assault, but the second part of Assault will get the damage boost, but not the third part. Assault includes 1 shield attack and 2 melee attacks with your weapon, but the last one is just going to be a regular damage attack, but you can get a counter-strike with Assault to work. You just need to have 4 out of 5 Riposte. Now, you're not going to be blocking all the time, but you're going to be blocking some of the time, particularly when you can't bring down an enemy or you want to power up Assault. Counter-strike can help you get through armor and stuff like that and actually do damage to an enemy you otherwise couldn't. So I would say on normal and nightmare, blocking can make you invincible, especially if you add anti-magic to it with the right prodigies. But on insane, they're still going to get through it to the point where I've made it to endgame with a blocking bulwark, but I would recommend not like using it on cooldown. But let's go on to Shield Slam. Hit your target with your shield 3 times for 66% damage, then quickly return to a blocking position. The bonus block will not check or trigger the block cooldown. Now, we don't actually have the block skill on here. You get it when you equip a shield. This is okay if you want to bring up a block to, let's say there's a powerful enemy that you're having trouble hitting. There's probably going to be a trash mob around you that this will be able to kill. So you use it on that guy, then you're blocking, then the powerful guy hits you and triggers the 2 turns of counter-strike debuff with 2 attacks, and then you follow up with an Assault. Hold on, I want to check this. No. Okay. Increasing the mastery does not give us an extra vulnerability or an extra attack with counter-strike. But yeah, you will use this occasionally, but I usually use it on trash to set up for a stronger strike on an enemy. Alright, Assault. This is your bread and butter move. Eventually you're going to be one-shotting almost everything with this except for the tougher Ran bosses. But that's later down, like level 30 and up, once you have access to a Prodigy. Alright, hits the target with your shield, doing 105% damage. If it hits, you follow up with 2 automatic critical hits with your weapon, doing 105% base damage each. But that gets up to 137% base damage each. So you're hitting twice with it. So that's actually 274% base damage altogether. And one of them is going to be doubled from your Counter-Strike 2 if you want. So it gets even higher than that. It gets, oh god, what is it? Around 400% damage. Not counting the Shield Strike. The Shield Strike, it's not going to do much. But with a Counter-Strike debuff, it might get up to 400, 500 if you're lucky. But yeah, this is awesome. You can keep it at 1 out of 5 for a while, but before, once you get all of your main stuff, putting this up can help quite a bit. It'll keep you within one-shotting range of some of the harder mobs, and that just makes the game go by a little bit quicker. Like seriously, once you get to a certain point, you're just rushing and then assaulting, resting, rushing and then assaulting and bumping down the trash. It's pretty fun. Alright, technique, shield defense. Shield wall. This is one of the reasons I like the Bulwark. It covers noob traps. Enter a protective battle stance, increasing defense by 11, armor by 11, and block value by 82. The defense and armor increase is based on your dexterity, the block on your strength. It also grants 57% resistance to stunning and knockback. This is giving you over half the amount of stun resistance you need, and it's the very first skill you can get to. I usually like taking up to 4 out of 5 because the last point only gives 6% stun resistance, but I mean, taking it up to 5 out of 5 is fine too. Basically, that last point is if you're finagling between you're trying to finagle 100% stun resistance, you might need that extra point just for the 6%, as opposed to having to find a better item with more stun resistance. So that covers armor and stun resistance, which armor might be more obvious that you need, but stun resistance isn't, especially for newer players. Alright, repulsion. Smash your shield into the face of all adjacent foes, dealing 176% shield damage and knocking them back 3 grids. In addition, all creatures knocked back will also be dazed for 8 turns. If known, activating this talent will refresh your rush cooldown if the attack hits. Excuse me. The distance increases with your talent level and daze duration with your strength. Let's see what we can get it up to. 271% shield damage. Nah, it's no good. Excuse me. I like to keep it at 1 because the best part about it, if known, activating this talent will refresh your rush cooldown. Basically, if you're surrounded and you need to rush away and you've already rushed in like a dummy, you can use this and then reactivate your rush. I like to keep it at 1. Again, disregard the high percentage damage on shield damage because you don't have shield mastery. Shield expertise. I used to max this out before I realized shield damage actually isn't that great. And I'll show you why. Let's raise this all the way up. No, it's easy. It's easier to see how it can be good on this one. Shield Slam. Alright, we've got 110% 3 times on Shield Slam. Now, when I used to take this before, it improves your damage and defense with shield-based skills and increases your spell and physical saves by 6. Spell 4 and then physical by 6. This does 110. When we put 1 point into this, it goes to 114, right? But it's 3 times, so that's a 15% increase in damage. And I always thought because it works on all of your shield skills, it's increasing these by quite a bit. So let's look at this. Now it's 128 versus 110. So that's 18% times 3. It seems like a big buff, but again, because you don't have weapon master or you don't have shield mastery, it's not as good as it sounds or looks. All right, last stand. You brace yourself for the final stand, increasing defense and armor by 6, maximum and current life by 108, but making you unable to move. Your stand lets you concentrate on every blow, allowing you to avoid death from normally fatal wounds. You can only die when reaching negative 108 life. The increase in defense and armor is based on your dexterity, and the increase in life is based on your constitution and normal maximum life. Alright, no good. It's sustained, but it roots you. It does only take 0% of a turn, but look at this. It's only increasing your armor, which is fine, but it's not reducing the amount of damage you take otherwise. So really, it's just a temporary hit point gain, and you're just standing there. Maybe if you had this maxed out, an extra, what is that, about 600 life could buy you the amount of time for rush to reset, or maybe you could use it repulsion, and then rush away. But I don't even take it, and I don't take this one anymore either. So what we do is we just go 4 and 1. If you want to buy yourself time with Last Stand, or you find yourself not moving a lot in fights, which is not what the Bulwark is good at, he attacks something, disappears, runs to the back line, kills the mage, disappears, runs back. Seriously, he is so mobile. I'll explain why in a little bit. But he has one of the best mobility skills in the game. Alright, this Battle Tactics, you unlock that at level 10 or 20, depending on if you need another inscription or not. But this is an unlocked skill tree. So we'll go over that later. Technique, combat techniques. Rush. Rush toward a target spot with incredible speed. If the spot is reached and occupied, you will perform a free melee attack against the target there. This attack does 120% weapon damage and can daze the target for 3 turns if it hits. You must rush from at least 2 tiles away. Alright, it's got a pretty long cooldown, 34. But there are ways to lower Rush's cooldown. Boots, chests, there are chests I think that lower the cooldown and other things. But basically this is going to be your escape. So once you get comfortable in it, the class, you can use this to engage, but I would save it early on as an escape. Alright, Perfect Strike. Oh, 4 Rush. At 3 out of 5, you get a +2 range on it. So if you're going to take it, if you're going to put multiple points in it, put it up to 3 out of 5, because that's where you get a bigger increase. You actually get an increase of 2 to the range instead of just 1. For Precise Strikes, this is crappy, don't ever use it, but let's read it. You focus your strikes, reducing your attack speed by 10% and increasing your accuracy by 17% and critical strike chance by 8%. Reducing your attack speed is bad. You don't want a chance getting double turned even as a Bulwark. So just 1 point in it and then forget about it. Perfect Strike. This is a great ability. You have learned to focus your blows to hit your target, granting +46 accuracy and allowing you to attack creatures you cannot see without penalty for the next 2 turns. Alright, it starts out pretty crappy duration, but you put 1 point in it, put 2 points in it, and then at 3 out of 5 you get an extra turn. So instead of going to 4 turns, it actually goes to 5 turns. So 3 out of 5 is pretty good. Eventually I will max this out, because when the really annoying things that I need blind fight for are like Dreadmasters, and it's going to be very hard to kill one of those in 5 turns, even if you are powerful. So especially if one of them is a rare or even Ran boss if you're super unlucky. But yeah, 1 point at first, and then get it to 3 out of 5 whenever you feel like you need the extra turns. Blinding Speed. Through rigorous training, you have learned to focus your actions for a short while, increasing your speed by 17% for 5 turns. This is pretty good. Takes 0% of a turn. The cooldown is 55, so in longer fights, it's really not going to do you much, but I like using it when I need to be quick. So I usually 5 out of 5 it on anybody that has it eventually. This can wait until later, but because you might not have the stamina to use it every battle. The problem with this is, alright, where is it? With greater weapon focus, Perfect Strike, and Blinding Speed, that's a lot of upfront stamina that you're using. 11, that's 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 stamina up front. So it can be dangerous to use all of that stamina up front and then not have enough to either rush away or finish attacking or anything like that. Let's go ahead and look. We've got 242 stamina at level 50, but that's without any willpower, which gives max stamina. Now, let's go through Combat Veteran. 4 points in here early on is what you want to float, but otherwise just forget about it. Until... Alright, here's a problem. When I was a noob, this tree, Unending Frenzy, everybody said it sucks. And I don't understand why, because you have no other way of getting stamina back unless you go into the War-Cries Tree, which you shouldn't, because it's all crap except for the one ability you need to recover stamina, and that one ability doesn't recover enough stamina, and it's got a 50 turn cooldown. But with Unending Frenzy, 3 points gets you 16 stamina back with each death you cause. And I mean, with Windblade or just attacking trash mobs, you're going to get a lot of stamina back. So I can't say don't take it because everybody else thinks it sucks. But play along the game for a little bit. If you're running out of stamina consistently and you really need some back, go ahead and grab it. But for the beginning, what you want to do is take 4 points in it, float 4 points in it for this 6.4 fast metabolism. Your combat focus allows you to regenerate life faster, 6.4 life per turn. That's actually quite a bit early on, and that can heal through a lot of dots and stuff. So I like taking 4 points in this. Just don't forget to take them out when you put something else in. Quick recovery. Your combat focus allows you to regenerate stamina faster. This never gets to the point where 3.1 stamina per turn. It would take you, for one assault, it would take you 5-6 turns just to get the stamina back. It's just not worth it. So 1 in there, 3 in there, and then depending on how you're going about it later, Unending Frenzy. Spell Shield. Rigorous training allows you to be more resistant to some spell effects. 12 extra spell save. No, it's up to 58 spell save, but I can't think of the hexes are annoying, but I don't think you're going to get high enough spell save regardless. Maybe if you were a dwarf who get extra spell saves, you could go that route, but I wouldn't bother with it. Alright, at level 10, I think you should unlock Battle Tactics. Now you can go Inscriptions and then unlock this second, but you're definitely going to want this. Greater Weapon Focus. Concentrate on your blows for 8 turns. Each strike you land on your target in melee range has a 53% chance to trigger another similar strike. This works for all blows, even those from other talents and from shield bashes, but you can gain no more than 1 extra blow with each weapon during a turn. So, with these, Shield Pummel and Shield Slam, you're only going to get 1 extra attack, even though you're attacking multiple times. But with Assault, you'll get 1 extra attack with your shield, and then 1 extra attack with your weapon. So it's good. Plus, when you bump, 53% chance to get an extra bump out of it would be nice. This is good. It's also instant. They did nerf it, but they took it back. When they nerfed it, they made it instant use. So it's kind of it was a nerf buff. I like that it's instant. I can use it at the beginning of every fight. Alright, Bleeding Edge. No, whoops, Step Up. Alright, this is what makes you extremely mobile. After killing a foe, you have a 20% chance to gain 1,000 movement speed bonus for 1 game turn. The bonus disappears as soon as any other action than moving is done. Note, since you will be moving very fast, game turns will pass very slowly. Take it up to 5 out of 5, and it's a 100% chance. So you attack something, you kill it, you can basically reposition yourself anywhere in the immediate battlefield. You can run away, you can kill a trash mob, and then run straight back to the casters, kill them, keep switching spots and killing, and there's no cooldown or anything on this, so it's just basically when you're fighting, you're always going to be moving quickly. It's very, very good. Because of how good this is, late game or end game, I like to leave one of the portals open, one of the easier portals for the final bosses, just so I have fodder to activate Step Up. Alright, Bleeding Edge. Lashes at the target doing 136% weapon damage. If the attack hits, the target will bleed for 260% weapon damage over 7 turns, and all healing will be reduced by 31%. This actually gets up to decent damage, 180% weapon damage, and then 337% weapon damage over 7 turns. I've actually been finding myself maxing this out. Not because it's awesome or I want to reduce the healing, it's just another good attack. It's because really you only have Assault and this to do your main damage, and otherwise you're just bumping or setting up a counter strike for Assault. Alright, hold on. Alright, True Grit. Take a defensive stance to resist the onslaught of your foes. While wounded, you gain all damage resistance equal to 27% of your missing health. So if you lost 70% of your life, you gain 19% all resistance. In addition, your all damage resistance cap increases 19.2% closer to 100%. Now, I think that means it's 19% of the 30%, because you can only go up to 70% resist all. So 19.2% of 30 is the extra you get. But let's see real quick. It doesn't say. Alright, well, let's keep going in it. I've never actually used this much because it drains stamina not too quickly, but it drains stamina, period. Hold on. It costs 40 stamina to sustain, but this consumes stamina rapidly the longer it is sustained. -1 stamina, increasing by 0.3 per turn. The effects are refreshed at the start of each turn, so if you heal during that time, you lose the all resistance. I I think if you had Tinkers, you can ignore this completely. Otherwise, take it if you have the extra points for an oh shit button. But again, if you try to heal yourself, you're going to lose that resist all too. So, I don't know. And because the effects are refreshed at the beginning of each turn, it doesn't, it's not like if you take 100% damage, the more you go down, the more damage that's going to be resisted. It only refreshes at the beginning of the turn, so be careful with that. So at max, if you're down to 30% life, you'll gain an extra 35% all resistance. It sounds good, but with their low stamina recovery, it's not great, in my opinion. Alright. Two-handed weapons. We can take this since we're an ogre, so let's go over it. Death Dance. Spin around, extending your weapon and damaging all targets around you for 170% weapon damage. That gets up to 206. It's only radius 1 though, so enemies that are touching you basically. It's okay. The only problem is you don't want to be surrounded even as a bulwark, so you'll mostly only be using it like maybe 2, maybe 3 enemies are going to get hit by it. Berserker. You enter an aggressive battle stance, increasing accuracy by 16 and physical power by 17 at the cost of 10 defense and 10 armor. While berserking, you are nearly unstoppable, granting you 47% stun and pinning resistance. The accuracy bonus increases with your dexterity and physical power bonus with your strength. Now that's actually not too bad. Losing 10 defense means almost nothing. Losing 10 armor does mean a lot, but actually I'm curious. Can we... No, I don't want to... Well, let's go ahead and check. I wonder if you can have them both on at once. No, you cannot. Wait, maybe you can. I need a two-handed weapon is the reason why. Looks like you can have them both activated at once. Which, what would it would cover the defense and armor loss, I guess. I've never taken them both before, so don't quote me on whether or not that's actually possible. But that could increase your stun resistance, but the accuracy and physical power are decent enough on their own. So, alright, War Shout. Shout your war cry in a frontal cone of radius 3. Radius 3, you say? How about radius 7? Yeah, this thing gets huge. Look at this. Oh, that's right. I still need a two-handed weapon to use it. Any targets caught inside will be confused for 7 turns. This is a really good CC ability, but again, we won't be using it. Death Blow. Tries to perform a killing blow, doing 127% weapon damage and dealing an automatic crit. If the target ends up with low enough life, under 20%, it might be instantly killed. At level 4, it drains half your remaining stamina and uses it to increase the blow damage by 100% of it. So, the chance to instantly kill will increase with your physical power. So, it would take 106 stamina away from us and add that on to the damage of Death Blow. It's a crappy skill. You don't want to use all of your stamina in one blow. So, where are we going from here? So we're not going to take two-handed weapons, but that is an option if you want to. It's up to you. Why is it only at 0.9 mastery? That seems like really low. Alright, archery training, we're obviously not going to take that. Superiority, this is a decent tree, but only for Juggernaut. Juggernaut, concentrate on the battle, ignoring some of the damage you take. Improves physical damage reduction by 17% and provides a 9% chance to shrug off critical damage for 20 turns. Costs a lot of stamina though, 59. Geez. This is easy to find on items though, so it's not necessary to take this whole tree just for that. Let's go with Onslaught. Take an offensive stance. As you walk through your foes, you knock them all back in a frontal arc up to 1 grid. This consumes stamina rapidly, -1 stamina per turn. That's not, I mean, that doesn't cost a lot of stamina. 1 stamina per turn, and it's not increasing, so it's not too bad. So I guess this could help you run away. It's also instant, so it's not like you couldn't turn it on when you needed it. Battle Call. This is almost useless, and it costs a ton of stamina, 35 stamina. Call all foes in a radius of 3 around you in battle, getting them into melee range in an instant. No. If I want to be in melee range, I will find a way to get into melee range. I don't want to pull everyone around me. I mean, I guess it's okay if you're... The problem is, think about it. You got a gunner or an archer, and you pull them close to you, they're still going to run away, or in a gunner's case, strafe away and shoot you anyway. So... you need to rush at them and stop them or stun them or something. This won't do anything. Shattering Impact. Put all of your strength into your weapon blows, creating shockwaves that deal 40% physical weapon damage to all nearby targets. Only one shockwave will be created per action, and the primary target does not take extra damage. Each Shattering Impact will drain 8 stamina. No. If it targeted the first target as well, this might be worth it. But no. I don't... If you're very fast, at least it's not once per turn, it's once per action, so you could get multiple of these at once. But even if you don't really have a lot of options for AoE, I still wouldn't take that. Technique, War-Cries. Alright, this is one that's a possible route if you have stamina problems, but not really. Release a powerful shout, doing 123 physical damage in a radius 4 cone in front of you. At level 5, the shout is so strong it shatters all incoming projectiles caught inside. The damage increases with your strength. I tried to go this route, Shattering Shout, to keep my Bulwark alive in the beginning. Like, I took it at level 10. But it does not scale enough. It doesn't do enough damage. So, it's got a huge radius, but that's it. That's all it really has. Second Wind. Take a deep breath to recover 54 stamina. The stamina recovery improves with your strength and willpower. Cooldown 50 though, so it makes it a small excuse me, a small amount of stamina. It probably gets up to 120 or more. Which is a decent amount, but for 50 cooldowns it needs to be like 15, maybe a 15 cooldown. Also, you can get this on a chest. Second Wind proc, you can use Second Wind, although it's pretty rare, and you can also get it on gloves if you take flexible combat. Like, it'll proc on its own, which that means you'll never run out of stamina, but that's if you take flexible combat. So, boost your life and Battle Shout. Boost your life and stamina by 12.6% for 7 turns by bellowing your Battle Shout. When the effect ends, the additional life and stamina will be lost. I don't understand what the point of this is, because we don't have percentage increases on anything. Except for like True Grit. So I really don't understand what the point of this is. And it also takes a turn, so it's not like you can use it because you're afraid of getting one shot either. You'd have to use it beforehand. And it only lasts 7 turns. No thank you. All that's crap. Battle Cry. Your Battle Cry shatters the will of your foes within a radius of 4, lowering their defense by 9 for 7 turns, making them easier to hit. All evasion and concealment bonuses are disabled. Your chance to hit increases with your physical power. That's terrible. Got a huge stamina cost, takes a full turn, and it's lowering their defense. Woo! Canceling evasion and concealment bonuses is usable, but it's also a niche situation. Like, Perfect Strike does the same exact thing, except it's only single target, kind of the way you attack. But this only lasts 7 turns, so it's not like you're going to kill 2. You're not going to be able to get to and kill 2 invisible enemies in that time. Maybe, but if you could do that, then you could do it with Perfect Strike as well. Alright, Cunning Dirty Fighting. Dirty Fighting. You make a low blow against a sensitive point on the target, dealing 177% unarmed damage. If your attack hits, the target is left reeling and vulnerable, reducing their physical save by 5, and their stun, blind, confusion, and pin immunities to 50% of normal for 4 turns. This effect bypasses saves. This is okay if you really need to stun something, I guess. But other than that, I don't really like it. I guess you can use it to proc Second Wind on your gloves, but I don't know how you would know the gloves had Second Wind without flexible combat, because you can't see the stats unless you are a brawler or you have flexible combat. Alright, Backstab. Your Quick Wit gives you a big advantage against disabled targets, increasing your damage by 4% for each disabling effect the target is under to a maximum of 12%. For this purpose, disabling effects are Stun, Blind, Daze, Confuse, Pin, Disarm, Cripple, and Silence. In addition, for each disabling effect the target is under, your melee attacks have a 1% to a maximum of 3% chance to inflict a new effect on them that they do not already have. Either Disarm, Cripple at 25% power, or Pin for 2 turns. The chance to further disable the target increases with your accuracy. This is okay, but I find we hit so hard with Counter-Strike and Assault. It would be hard to stack up a bunch of debuffs for this purpose. Maybe with a Shadow Blade who's using Flurry, like, it would be easy to get that on there with random gloom chances on everything and stuff like that, but I think we're going to be packing too big of a punch for this to work, and we're not getting multiple attacks off except for our shield slams, and we don't want to use those anyway. I guess you could pair it with shield slam to set up a Counter-Strike into Assault for a really big assault, but that seems like you're going quite a bit out of your way, plus you're using category point on something you don't really need. Blinding powder. Throw a cloud of blinding dust in a radius 1 cone. Enemies within will be blinded, as well as having their accuracy reduced by 8 and movement speed decreased by 15% for 3 turns. The chance to inflict these effects increases with your accuracy. I don't understand what this is. It's lowering their accuracy and movement speed. The movement speed decrease is fine, but it's not enough. Like, it should be more than that. I mean, I get it's a cone, but I don't know. I just never thought very highly of this, because it... Maybe if they change the accuracy to an armor reduction and lower movement speed, but I don't know. Or just change it entirely, reduce the armor and reduce their attack speed. That would make this much better. Twist the knife. Make a painful strike dealing 122% weapon damage that increases the duration of up to 1 negative effect on the target by 2 turns. For each negative effect extended this way, the duration of a beneficial effect is reduced by the same amount, possibly canceling it. This could be good. I mean, if you could, I don't know, you could use it to increase a stun duration or try to lower the amount of recovery a Bulwark has left. I don't know. It would be okay, I guess. I'd use it if I unlock the tree for something else, but the problem is the rest of the tree doesn't have enough for me to want to go there, so I'm going to just say blech. Alright. Going into the generic trees, we got Race Ogre. Ogric Wrath. You enter an Ogric Wrath for 9 turns, increasing your stun and pinning resistance by 20% and all damage done by 10%. I just use this at the beginning of every battle. I set it on V, and then B is usually blinding speed, and then N is usually perfect strike. I basically have it set up to where they're all in a line, so I can either go across the keyboard and click them all, or just click them all with my mouse. And then that's my setup for every fight. And then also greater weapon focus. I would use greater weapon focus and blinding speed before perfect strike. Put perfect strike on the end because you don't always need to use this. But this is free, so definitely put this as first. Grisly Constitution. An ogre's body is acclimated to spells and inscriptions, increases spell save by 5, and improves the contribution of primary stats on infusions and runes by 15%, which goes up to 30%. With this and the stat increasing prodigies, you can get some truly insane infusions. I'm talking like 500 healing infusions with 7 cooldown. It gets pretty good. At level 5, your body is so strong you can use a two-handed weapon in your main hand while still using an offhand item. When using a two-handed weapon this way, you suffer a 20% accuracy, physical power, spell power, and mind power penalty, decreasing by 5% per size category above big. Also, all damage procs from your weapons are reduced by 50%. We're not a weapon proc class, so there's basically no downside to this. The 20% debuff to our accuracy and physical power, because of diminishing returns, it's going to be like 3 or 4 accuracy and 3 or 4 physical power. It's really not going to be a lot. Scar Scripted Flesh. When you crit, you have a 20% chance to reduce by 1 the remaining cooldown of one of your inscriptions and of any saturation effects. This effect can only happen once per turn. This either needs to have a higher percentage chance to happen to the point where it's happening almost every turn, or let it happen more than once per turn, because the increase on it isn't enough to put more than 1 point in, so I just leave it at 1. Writ large, you're going to want to take this to max, most likely. Instantly removes runic and infusion saturations. Very good. For 10 turns, your inscriptions cool down twice as fast. So it turns that 7 cooldown healing infusion that's boosted up by Grisly Constitution into like a 3 or 4 cooldown infusion. It's really nice. This is one of the reasons why I have the sustainability against the final bosses in my my Let's Play with the Writhing one. I don't think without it I could have kept up with the amount of damage they were doing to me. At level 5, your command over inscriptions is so good that you can use 1 more. You still need a category point to unlock it. So basically you can unlock 3 infusions instead of just 2. Thick Skin, obviously you're going to want to take it up to 5, but we're not going into Constitution here. You don't need it. Just find items that give a bunch of Constitution and save them up to the point. Later on you can get items with 20 Constitution on it. I have a necklace with 23 Constitution on my Writhing one Let's Play, so it's really not that hard. It may seem hard in the beginning, but you will be able to get it eventually. Obviously, go 3 out of 5 for heavy armor training, and if you run out of places to put more stuff, you can take it up to 5 if you want. Combat accuracy, I just take it to 5 to make sure you have enough accuracy for everything. Weapons mastery, obviously 5 out of 5. Technique conditioning, vitality. You recover faster from poisons, diseases, and wounds, reducing the duration of all such effects by 21%. That's okay, not amazing. Additionally, when your life falls below 50%, you heal for a base 20 health plus 1% of your maximum life, currently 38.1 total each turn for 8 turns. So, that's about a 300 damage heal, and it's passive, so it's really nice. This effect can only happen once every 15 turns. The base healing scales with your constitution. Alright, even with constitution, it's never going to be a ton. It doesn't scale well. Look at this. Base healing. For the first point, we get 38.1 total. For the second point, we would only go up 10. So that's 38. No, it only goes up 8, not even 10. It only goes up 8. So obviously, it's a 1-point wonder. Take it from the warrior escort if you got it. Or if you've already put a point in it, if you get a warrior escort, go immediately into unflinching resolve. Unflinching resolve is actually pretty good for a bulwark, or if you think you can find 4 warrior escorts, it's actually not bad on them either. You've learned to recover quickly from effects that would disable you. Each turn you have an 11% chance to recover from a single stun effect. At talent level 2 you may also recover from blindness, at level 3 confusion, level 4 pins, and level 5 slows and wounds. Only one effect may be recovered from each turn, and the chance to recover from an effect scales with your constitution. Alright, for this, only try to get it up to level 4. I don't think it's possible because we have 1.3 mastery, but if you're taking it from a warrior escort on a non-bulwark class or someone who doesn't have conditioning, you can get it up to exactly 4. The reason why is because level 5 actually makes it worse. I would much rather get rid of a stun, a blind, confusion, or pin rather than a slow or wound. So I think it's better off if you can get the effective talent level at 4, not to 5. Daunting presence. Enemies are intimidated by how composed you remain under fire. When you take more than 5% of your maximum life in a single hit, all enemies in a radius of 1 will be intimidated, reducing their physical power, mind power, and spell power by 14 for 4 turns. If your health drops below 735, you'll be unable to maintain your daunting presence, and the sustain will deactivate. The power of intimidation effect improves with your physical power, and its chance to affect your enemies improves with your strength. Now, I don't think it's very good, but this might actually be a hidden skill that people have overlooked. People say it's not good, but I don't know how well it scales, and I don't know if that amount of spell power is actually going to affect enemies. Now, if you were a dwarf and you had power as money for the extra saves, you have spell shield up a few points before it starts giving you diminishing returns, and you're skilling for saves, this might actually be just the amount of physical power or power reduction to make all your saves worth it. So I'm not going to take it. I'm going to recommend you don't take it, but if somebody wants to test that out, I think it actually might be a sleeper skill that people have just overlooked because so many people have said it's bad so long. But I think the math is there to actually make this worth it. I just suck at math, so I'm not going to do it. Adrenaline Surge. You release a surge of adrenaline that increases your physical power by 2 for 3 turns. While the effect is active, you may continue to fight beyond the point of exhaustion. Your stamina-based sustains will not be disabled if your stamina reaches 0, and you may continue to use stamina-based talents while at 0 stamina at the cost of life. The physical power increase will scale with your constitution. Using this talent does not take a turn. Now, I'm curious. Your stamina still goes down when you use stuff. It just allows you to use life instead of stamina to use it. This might be worth it. I don't know. I used to take it all the time, but I found I really didn't have a chance to use it anyway. The better option is usually just to run away and rest. But on the final bosses, I think this could be useful. So if you find yourself running out of stamina a lot and you can't get away from enemies, go ahead and try it out. It's only a 1... No, you want 2 points in this. It's only a 1-point tax to get there with Daunting Presence. So you're only going to be wasting the points you put in it, and plus 1 with Daunting Presence. Or you could float 3 points, 1 in Daunting Presence and 2 in Adrenaline Surge, just to test it out if you wanted. Alright, Cunning Survival. Heightened senses. You notice the small things others do not notice, allowing you to see creatures in a 5 radius even outside of light radius. This is not telepathy, however, and it is still limited to line of sight. Also, your attention to detail increases stealth detection and invisibility detection by 26, and you gain the ability to detect traps at 18 detect power. The detection abilities improve with cunning. This is okay for the infravision, but otherwise, no. You don't need to... I guess detecting invisibility would be nice, but you'd have to take it a bunch of points, and then I don't think detection of 52 is going to be enough to beat higher level stealth enemies, so I really don't think it's useful for that. The infravision is fine. 9 infravision is quite a bit. You wouldn't have to worry about light radius at all, but again, infravision is annoying because you can't see the layout of the map. Device mastery. Your cunning manipulations allow you to use charms, wands, totems, and torques more efficiently, reducing their their cooldowns and the power cost of all usable items by 10%. In addition, your knowledge of devices allows you to disarm known traps. So yeah, we don't care about disarming traps, but you will take this up to 40% because you're gonna need, well, not need, but you want tinkers with this guy. The Bulwark is one of the classes where they're not super powerful. They're a little bit underpowered, to be honest. But Tinkers really helps them out. Gives them some more offense. Gives them a lot more defenses with debuff clears, and it gives them more resist all, which they could definitely use. Magic damage is their bane. It's not really their bane. It's like Superman. He has no specific resistances to magic, so magic affects the Bulwark just like anyone else without magic resistance. Alright, going on to track. Oh, and this works for the cooldowns of Tinkers. That's why we want to 5 out of 5 it. Track, you can take it if you're already here. You might as well get 1 point with it. It costs... Actually, this one doesn't cost stamina. That's weird. I thought they cost stamina. Well, whatever. Track. Sense foes around you in a radius of 17 for 4 to 5 turns. The reason why the radius is so high is because we put points into cunning. You don't need to put extra points in it for the radius increase, just for turn increase if you want more turns out of it. Danger sense. You have an enhanced sense of self-preservation, and your keen intuition allows you to sense dangers others miss. Your ability to detect traps is enhanced. Attacks against you have a 1.3% reduced chance to be critical hits, and damage bonuses attackers gain against you for being unseen are reduced by 10%. You also gain an additional chance at your normal save, minus 18 effective. Oh my god, it's minus 18 effective? I thought it was raw. To resist detrimental status effects that can be resisted. Alright, so if you actually had the saves allowed to, like if you had around 80 saves to actually contend with some of the spell powers of later enemies, losing 18 effective saves, that's like 40. That's like losing 40 raw save, or 35 or something like that. I don't know the math. But this 18 effective makes this way worse than I thought it was originally. The only part of this I really like is the 1.3% reduced chance to be critical hit, but it's not enough to take any points into, so I wouldn't. Alright, so we've gone through the skills. What do we want to do now? Category points. Category points. Alright, at level 10 and 20, our two options are Battle Tactics or Inscriptions. Now, it actually might be better to get you to level 20 or to keep you alive to go Inscription. And also, you can't just pour a bunch of points in this at once anyway, because you got to be, level 14 to get the last point in this, and level 18 to get the last point in this. So what you can do is grab an Inscription at level 10, and then around level 16 or so, start saving your points, and then you can automatically max these or get close to maxing these at level 20. But whichever one you want to go. I really like Step Up, so I usually grab Battle Tactics right away, and then I go from there. At level 36, this is all assuming you didn't get Tinkers. If you found Tinkers before level 20, I would... Well, see, that kind of switches things around. This is another reason to take Battle Tactics at level 10. If you find Tinkers, you want to take that at level 20. Now, if you haven't found Tinkers by level 20, which is super possible, you can get all 9 escorts in Reknor and Dreadfell, because Dreadfell has so many levels, so you might not find the Tinker. There's a good chance you're not going to find the Tinker until Dreadfell, which will be way past level 20 at that point, or you should be, on Insane anyway. So, Tinkers, Battle Tactics, and Inscriptions are your below level 20 options. If you haven't found Tinkers yet by level 20, you're going to have to relegate it to your level 36 category point Or if you're on normal or nightmare, you might be able to get to the worm bile before level 36. So, battle tactics, inscription, and tinkers. That's 3 of your category points in any order you really want, but I already said I usually take battle tactics at level 10. Now, for the last category point, I would probably go inscriptions, especially if you got tinkers. That lets you get 2 medical injectors, and you've still got what is it? Hold on. We've already learned both of ours. We've got how many inscription slots? No. Okay. Going back to this. Your last slot, or your last category point, I would take an inscription. That leaves you open to still being able to use some infusions, but you can use 2 medical injectors as well. The reason why you want to use 2 medical injectors, you can get away with 1, because Pain Suppressor Valve has such a low cooldown. By the time you actually need to use a debuff clear like Frost Salve or Watery Salve or Fiery Salve, the cooldown on Pain Suppressor is seriously like 4. With Device Mastery and a good medical injector, you can use Pain Suppressor Valve, get your 5 or 6 turns of Resist All. It'll come off a cooldown at 4 turns, and then by 4 turns you'll have a hefty amount of debuffs probably built up, and then you can use one of your debuff clear salves. However, there's also the Unstoppable Force salve, which gives you a ton of saves. It's actually one of the ways to make saves viable. So that's why you should use 2 medical injectors, because then you can put Unstoppable Salve right here, Pain Suppressor Salve right here, and then Unstoppable Force Salve right here, and you can just use both of them at the beginning of every fight. It gives you damage reduction, and it almost makes you impervious to debuffs, because Unstoppable Force is all saves. Pair that with a Dwarf with Money is Power, and that's more than, it should be more than enough saves to resist almost everything. I don't think it's enough to beat out the final bosses, but with equipment usage and maybe Daunting Presence, it should be. I think Elander has 117 spell power, if I remember right. Or that could be a spell save, so don't quote me on it. But going on from there, Prodigies. We're going to be boring here and take I Can Carry the World and Arcane Might. I Can Carry the World. Your strength is legendary. Fatigue and physical exertion mean nothing to you. Your fatigue is permanently set to 0. That's decent enough because it stops you from having really high stamina costs. Carrying capacity increased by 500. Decent enough, but we don't need that. And strength increased by 50. All of your damage is going to be coming from strength, so that's good. You also gain a size category, which will somewhat get rid of this Grizzly Constitution thing, but it's only 5%, and even at 20%, it's not a lot. But, I mean, it still is an advantage, so I Can Carry the World is really the only mandatory one. For the next one, I would definitely go Arcane Might. You have learned to harness your latent arcane powers, channeling them through your weapon. This has the following effects. Equipped weapons are treated as having an additional 50% magic modifier, because we have maxed out magic that's going to add quite a bit of damage to our character sheet damage. Your raw physical power is increased by 100% of your raw spell power. You're not going to have a lot of spell power, but I mean, it's still going to be an increase. And your physical crit chance is increased by 25% of your bonus spell critical chance. Now, why would that matter? Because we're not going to have spell crit, right? Well, you will have some. Randomly throughout equipment, you might have spell crit on stuff, but specifically, if you go the Font of Sacrifice route, when you either side with the Assassin Lord or side with the Merchant, if you side with the Assassin Lord, you can take a tier 5 orange glove and put the War Making Ego on it, and that gives you 20% physical, 20% spell, and 20% mental crit rate. So that basically, it takes that 20% physical crit rate and it turns it into 24 or 25% crit rate. So it's a little bit more. Plus, you can't always know what you're going to get on equipment. Your best cloak could have some amount of spell crit on it, so it's not always a loss. Don't write that part of it off completely, because it still can increase your effectiveness in fights. Now, the other one I said maybe is flexible combat. Each time that you make a melee attack, you have a 60% chance to execute an additional unarmed strike. The reason you wouldn't get this for the power, for the same reason you don't use shield attacks for damage, you wouldn't use flexible combat for damage. You don't have unarmed mastery, so it's not going to do a lot of damage. However, there can be some very amazing effects on gloves that you want. The one that I like for the Bulwark is Second Wind on hit. It's like 10% second wind on hit is what I've seen. I've seen it maybe 3 or 4 times, but I don't unlock flexible combat a lot, so you can't see that stat unless you're a brawler or you have flexible combat. It'll give you some extra damage, but we're not taking it for that, like I said. You can also, with flexible combat, you can actually proc additional melee attacks. There are two of them. Dominate will proc an extra melee attack. I do not remember what the other skill is called, but there are 2 ways to proc extra actual melee attacks with flexible combat. Dominate being one example. The other one that I would say is Windblade. Instead of Arcane Might, you might want to do Windblade. You spin madly, generating a sharp gust of wind with your weapons that deals 320% weapon damage to all targets within radius 4 and disarms them for 4 turns. This will make the Orc Prides and everything else go by a lot faster. Also, it actually makes the Bulwark capable of kiting enemies because it's got a radius 4. That beats out the Doom's strike tree for range. The Doom strike tree only has 3 range. So this is an option if you're getting bored and you want to kill stuff really quickly. But for the purposes of killing the things that actually matter, I think Arcane Might and I can carry the world, edge it out by just a little bit. Not a lot, but just a little bit. Alright, where are we going from here? Itemization. Alright. Obviously, armor. That's everybody goes for armor, though, so it's not a big surprise. Now, the Bulwark. You save a ton of itemization points on the Bulwark because they already have some of the stuff you need. They've already got movement speed. They've already got damage, kind of, because they're a melee class. They've already got shield wall for the armor and resistance to stunning. Knockback resistance doesn't really matter. And what was the other one? They've got movement, damage, accuracy, and speed. So what you want to do with that, all those itemization points you would have to use. This is where I think the Bulwark is... People underestimate its strength. You can use all those itemization points that you would have used on your equipment trying to get those, like get extra stun resistance, and use it towards actual resistances. So you have a lot more room to play around with your equipment to get up to at least 50% resist all. Not necessarily the actual resist all stat. I mean 50% resistance in each element. The ones you can kind of gimp out on are acid. You've got to worry about Worm That Walks. They're not primarily acid, but they do have acid attacks. And retchlings and stuff like that, but that's not a big deal. Acid breath can be annoying. You can run into packs of acid worms. But otherwise, that's one that I would skip out on. Temporal damage. The people who do temporal damage can be dangerous, especially now that they've added Cultists of Entropy. But Cultists of Entropy are split damage anyway, so you can kind of skip out on temporal damage. And then Arcane, you can't really because the final boss has a really powerful mana thrust. But so long as it's not at 0, you should be okay. But anyway, yeah, like I said, you get a lot of extra room to play around with your equipment, and because you're using a shield, you can get your resistances up fairly high. Now, if one more thing on Prodigies, if you want to do blocking, like if you're on normal or nightmare, if you went my route like on nightmare, I want a blocking anti-magic Bulwark to win. What I did with my shield, my Prodigies, was I took Eternal Guard. Your block now lasts 1 more turn and doesn't end when hit. So that means no matter how many times you're hit, your block stays for 2 turns. So that makes it last forever. Well, it feels like forever because you got like I think a 3-turn cooldown on your block, if I recall correctly. But whatever, you can almost keep your block up the entire time. I think it's 66% uptime. And then you take Spectral Shield. By infusing your shield with raw magic, your block can now block any damage type. Now, you don't actually have to take this. This is the easy way to do the block. You can just take this. But if, for the purposes of blocking elemental damage, you actually just need a shield that has resistances on it for that. So like if I had fire resistance, my blocking would count toward fire damage. So you don't necessarily need spectral damage or spectral shield, but finding a shield, a good shield, like a tier 5 shield with enough resistances spread across as many as you want, it's very hard to find that. So if you're going to go the blocking route, just grab Spectral Shield, Eternal Guard first, and then Spectral Shield. And then you are pretty hard to kill in Nightmare and pretty much impossible to kill in Normal. So that's kind of the blocking route. What else? Itemization. I would try to get your critical strike up as high as possible, but don't skimp on the resistances. You're not going to be able to overpower everything like you could with like a Mind Slayer or a Rogue or a Marauder. So you're going to need the extra defenses. Try to get your resistances as high as possible. Stun resistance, you need just a little bit more. If you max this out, you should get that just accidentally, honestly. Life, you don't need to worry about life as much, but I would still go for it a little bit. Percentage physical damage is fine, but what you really need is physical penetration. You have no way to get physical penetration here. I think actually with... No, they don't. Where did I see battle tactics? Oh, I just made an adventure. That's where I saw battle tactics. So you want to get physical penetration at least up to 50%, but I would prefer like 80% because any percentage reduction is going to really lower the damage you're doing with Assault. So, and Bone Giants endgame can get up to like 95% physical resistance. So, what else? I think that is it. What do we want to do? We've got itemization, stats, skills, cap points, prodigies, and then what is the worst area for a bulwark? I wonder. It's probably going to be the tier 2s, but that's kind of an obvious answer. Everybody has trouble there. High peak, they do have a problem because you're not going to be able to just one-shot everything anymore. If it's a rare, you're not going to be able to one-shot it, and a lot of stuff is going to have higher resistances than normal, so you won't be able to count on rush as much. Ironically, once you get to the top, then you can actually rely on rush because the portal summon a lot of trash mobs. But, yeah, I think we're good there. So, the next class guide I'm going to do is the Archmage. And then, I don't know where we'll go from there. Maybe we'll do another Let's Play, but there are a couple games coming out recently that I kind of want to play. Actually, they're coming out in like a couple hours. What's it called? Latest Fears or something? Lost Fears? Layers of Fear, that's what it is. But anyway, that's it for the Bulwark. So let me know what you think about the guide in the comments below. So please leave a like or comment below and feel free to subscribe for more full Let's Plays like this one. And thanks for stopping by.